Name. Amen. All right, so Psalm 39. Verse 1. I said, I will guard my ways, lest I sin with my tongue. I will restrain my mouth with a muzzle, while the wicked are before me. I was mute with silence. I held my peace, even from good. And my sorrow was stirred up. My heart was hot within me. While I was musing, the fire burned, and then I spoke with my tongue. Words, lots and lots of words. On a fun note, it seems that some say that on average ladies will use about 20,000 words a day, or men will use approximately 7. Not sure what's going on there, but that's what they say. But the average adult will take in somewhere between 30 to 50,000 words in a day, depending on their occupation or what they do, where they're at, where they're located. And so we're flooded with this communication, with these words. And I think we find an interesting correlation, this interesting parallel going on with not only the rise and the increase of information and knowledge in our time and our age, but also along with pride, self-centeredness. Everybody, through social media or media in general, wants to be heard, wants to have a voice. So we'll stop up I-5 and grab our signs and say, whatever it is we have to say because we're going to be heard. So as we kind of walk through, just kind of graze through this, it was something that I first wanted to point out is the multitude of words, not only that we can choose to use or not use, as we'll get into pray for seeking Lord in our own life, but the words that are flooding us. I'm going to turn to, of course, the book of James on this subject, because he is really the guy who lays it out well for us. James chapter 3. And I will start in verse 5. James 3:5. Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body, and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile, of creature of the sea, is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. These words, the psalmist here writes that he's guarding his tongue, both in good times and bad. He's restraining it like with a muzzle. But I just wanted to highlight also its effect on us. Not only the mistake or of how much in the multitude of our own words we sin, but how much is that affecting us as we'll get bombarded with whatever people decide to put on the news program. And then we'll watch them for a while and we'll switch to the next one. And then pretty soon we're on with a sitcom, and then we're driving somewhere and we're turning on the radio. And then more and more we really don't do well with silence anymore. You're certainly not turning on classical, so you get some more words. All of this is just pouring in and pouring in. Not to mention the sin that will be pouring forth, because as things go, talk radio to whatever, 24/7, all of that is just pouring forth. So let's make a mental note. It's something I would like to pray for our community, for our country. But I want to kind of look at it a little bit different. I'd like to kind of pray and seek the Lord on how it affects us personally. Everything from, you got to drive by a billboard for Castle. If you don't know what that is, that's good. To the advertisement for marijuana, to some guy with a board flipping things around. All of these words, all of these signs, all of these thoughts coming towards us. So I want to be praying for that. Verse 4. Lord, make me to know my end, that what is the measure of my days, that I may know how frail I am. Indeed, you have made my days as handbreadths, and my age is as nothing before you. Certainly every man at his best state is but a vapor. Surely every man walks about like a shadow. Surely they busy themselves in vain. He heaps up riches and does not know who will gather them. A little farther forward in Psalm 90, verse 12, he says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." Here, as the psalmist continues, he begins to evaluate his own life and asks the Lord to show him, to teach him the measure of his days. Because he knows that, and God was from all eternity. The sun that he created has been going up and coming down for a long time. The ground that we stand on and we own sees many of us come and go, and come and go. And so, where to make that investment? You know, if the average guy lives to be in his early 70s, and he's working and he's working and he's working to save working for that retirement. But how many really don't ever enjoy it? Their life's work, their life focus is simply going to really go to someone else. And and so he says, we're like a vapor, we're like a shadow, and in vain he heaps up riches and does not know who will gather them. Whether it be, as with Bill, who passed away last night, who wasn't expecting his health to change so soon, or for us, that we would teach to number our days, whether they be short or whether we think that there are many. What are we storing up? To what purpose is our life focused? So the direction of our life. What is the direction for our nation? What is the direction for us as individuals? At the end of the day, when you've put in your day's work, or you're thinking on your thought out, your 5-year plan, what is the fruit from that? Is it that, I don't know, be into that new place or move there, but what is the end result of that? Is it eternal? Or is it something that's just going to go to someone else? And you don't know what they're going to do with it ultimately, or even if they're going to get it. The direction of our life. Verse 7. And now, Lord, what do I wait for? My hope is in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the reproach of the foolish. I was mute, and I did not open my mouth, because it was you who did it. Remove your plague from me. I am consumed by the blow of your hand. When he rebukes, you correct. You correct man for iniquity. You make his beauty melt away like a moth. Surely every man is a vapor. Again, he comes back to this vapor. Again, he comes back to this humility before God. Here he's struggling with all of his words, and he's struggling with trying to keep quiet. And then he asks God, show me the number of my days. Show me the measurement of it all. How frail I am, that I am but a vapor, and my riches are going to someone else. And that in verse 7, Lord, I wait for you, and my hope is in you. Now David was a guy who was well off. But he didn't concern himself with his riches or with what he had, but that his hope was in the Lord. And he was a man familiar with the discipline of God. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6, and also in Proverbs 3:12, it speaks of God rebuking and chastening us, those who he loves. And I think there's a lot of encouragement to that God won't leave us out on our own to our own devices. He's not a father that just goes, well, go ahead, After you walk over there and stick your hand on the fire, I'm just going to laugh at you because you were too dumb not to put your hand on the wood stove. But he's one that rebukes and corrects and chastens. Surely, man is like a vapor. So heaping up the treasures, that's all going to go away. Verse 11, his beauty melts away like a moth. Also those outward things fade away. Verse 12 and 13, hear my prayer, O Lord, give ear to my cry. Do not be silent at my tears, for I am a stranger with you, a sojourner, as all my fathers were. Remove your gaze from me, that I may regain strength before I go away and am no more. Hear my prayer. Give ear to my cry. Do not be silent at my tears. So crying out to God, knowing that God is the one ultimately who was able to keep him from letting his mouth run off. He's the one that's able to show him the value of his life. He's the one that's able to teach him not to be concerned with just the external beauties and the things of life. But as he's turning to him, he says, hear my cry, hear my prayer, and don't be silent. So we have a community and a nation that is spewing forth these words day unto day, night unto night, with unrestrained tongues. And we're subject to not only get caught up in it, but also to have to listen to it. Also, we have a nation, we have communities, and we have our own lives to check whether we're getting caught up with storing our treasures here and taking our perspective off of the eternal. And then we have God teaching us not to be consumed with that external beauty that melts away, or to not be overtaken by the discipline of the Lord. So as we do that, I just want to go back to Ezekiel 22, verse 30. A verse that gets shared a lot, but I like to make it fresh as we'll seek the Lord tonight as he leads us. Ezekiel chapter 22. So Israel at this time had a lot of wickedness going on. People were talking about the visions that they had of the Lord and weren't true, and they were just after to destroy the people and gain dishonest, trying to make a buck off God's people. all the leaders of the nation were all twisted up and gone sideways. And I'll start in verse 29. The people of the land have used oppressions, committed robbery, and mistreated the poor and the needy, and they were wrongfully oppressed the stranger. So I sought for a man among them who would make a wall and stand in the gap before me on behalf of the land, that I should not destroy it. But I found no one. May it be not so in our time, may it not be so in our generation. The Lord Jesus spoke of that question of when he comes, will he find faith on the earth? In those hard times when people are turning everyone to his own way, will the Lord, and I believe he will, find us, if nothing else, who are willing to stand in the gap, who will have that faith that is enduring. So we seek the Lord for these things concerning our families and our community and our own lives. And so I wanted to start out, and we'll just pray as a group for our community, for our nation. Then, I don't know, probably after a while, depending on the Lord leads, we'll probably get a little more smaller groups, and we'll just pray for each other individually. Because I know one thing that I've been reminded of in the last month and a half or so is my words. It's a lot easier when not as many people pay attention to what you say. But I've noticed how much I fail or I slip or I make mistakes with my own words. And in paying attention, I realize, that's probably where my heart's at too. So I need to pray for those things. I'm sure Mark and Zane can use it as well. But let's just take some time and seek the Lord for our nation that is pouring forth words over the internet and our TV all around the world. That is heaping up riches, that is consumed with the external, as the Lord looks for someone to stand in the gap for it.